Hello, this is Katie. Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be using the Prima Marketing Odyssey palette. I've kind of wanted to do a series of some sort of just doing something with each of these palettes. I'm going to be using Maui, Amsterdam, Jamaica, London, and Inca. I don't use every color. I think it would be hard for me to use every color in a set on something like this. But hopefully it's enough colors to entertain you. I'm going to be using this circly, spirally stencil thing that I probably would have obsessed over when I was 8. Just like the spirograph, if you remember that. This has helped me make perfect circles in the things that I'm doing. So the idea is just to make a bunch of circles overlapping, and then we're going to be painting each section a different color. So as opposed to, painting the whole circle one color, the sections that are cut off by overlapping or just touching up against each other or barely almost touching, we'll be painting each section. To me, the end result kind of looks like a circus. The colors are very bright and there's basically one of each color. And I do have kind of a mishap in the upper right at some point, and it's very annoying, but I still wanted to complete what I came here to show you. So I am going to finish doing the pencil outline for these, and then I'm going to be using a number 8, I think it's 08, yeah, a 08 micron that I picked up recently. I got some thicker ones just to be able to make thicker lines, and I'm going to be outlining those, but I don't need such a dark outline to see it, so I'm going to roll my kneaded eraser kind of into a log and then roll it over those just to kind of lift it up a little bit into a skinnier log. So this is usually what I notice or have learned watercolor people, more professional than myself, do. They do their sketching and then they'll lift up most of it, and then if they want to outline it in anything, then they've still got those lines there. I've also noticed a lot of artists using like a red colored pencil for outlines, which is very interesting looking, and I kind of want to try it. I don't really have one. I think there's a special red pencil for that purpose, so I want to look into it. But here I'm just trying very carefully, and I do have a couple areas where I smudge the ink. I probably should have just kind of bounced around and waited for it to dry. But what makes this easier, I eventually figure out, is I will do this. I'll draw it to where one of the lines meets another edge of a circle, and then kind of resituate myself and finish it. These are not perfect. I'm obviously freehanding it. I'm just drawing it to a line and then finishing it. So kind of giving my hand a break and a chance to go a different direction. The other thing is, I actually forgot what I was going to say. I do smudge. I think I smudged it because I wiped the page. That was kind of stupid. That was on me. But I do use one of the darker colors, I think purple, on both of the places that I smudged to at least help cover it up a little bit rather than using yellow. So I pick those areas first and pick a darker color. What I was going to say is that I could have used this pen in the protractor stencil thing rather than doing it in pencil first. That's entirely up to you. I think this size micron would have fit in that little hole. A pencil is just a little bit longer, and I know that it would go down into the hole on the protractor. I don't know if this pen would fit through in order to do that. But maybe I will try for next time. I've been wanting to do more sketching, of just things, or, you know, I'm not good at drawing. I never have been. So I've always wanted to try, especially more recently, to actually be able to draw something, and sketch it out and then paint it or fill it in. And you can just paint on top of your lightly erased sketches. The paint will usually cover up any light graphite, essentially. If you want to do outlines, I've seen many pieces of work like this, but like of people or animals or something with outlines that look great painted in as well. To me, this is just easier, and this is kind of a relaxing thing to do, where I don't really have to think. I don't have to really be artistic or be able to draw in order to do it, and still kind of end up with something that looks cool, that I enjoy. But being able to kind of practice and get better at drawing things like people or animals or scenes would be nice. I think it's just easier for me. I wanted to try a couple like fall scenes, and I have a couple YouTube tutorials saved for that, where you're not sketching anything, you're just painting kind of more of an abstract landscape, but you do it in layers and it does end up looking, you know, somewhat realistic. I'm kind of better at abstract stuff. I'm not better at abstract stuff. Something like this, I am coloring within the lines, and it is just wet on dry. So I'm essentially coloring it like a marker, basically. Or you're just kind of drawing, filling it in. This isn't real, like wet on wet technique that you'd actually use for a purpose in a painting. And I do prefer wet on dry because you do have more control of the paint that way. I think what I meant to say was that the more abstract part of watercolor, I'm just not an abstract person. I prefer to, you know, follow exact directions and do the thing and complete it. That's why I need to follow tutorials, and I pause and do and hit play, and then pause and do and hit play, and I have to follow exactly what they're doing. And I get, you know, annoyed when I can't do it. Even with like loose watercolor florals that I've done, I was following a tutorial the entire time. So I'm not very good at just taking something in my mind and kind of putting it down to paper. The same goes with cards. I'm not very creative or good at, you know, creating a layout or a scene. So I'm usually casing someone else's idea because other people are better at that than me, which I think is completely fine if you give them credit. Honestly, if somebody copies one of my cards, I'm honored. It's only happened a couple times, I think, unless a couple times I've been given credit or they've told me about it. But if you do and don't tell me, I don't care. It's fine. But I think most people would be happy that they could inspire you or help you to make cards. So, anyway, that is a side thought. This is only sped up 2 times, and I know that it's kind of long. I didn't want to, the app that I use only speeds it up to 2x. I could have run it through the app twice. I'm not quite sure because I did the last one. It just takes a lot longer to process. I did the last one at 4x because I did 2x and then I processed it through. And a second time at another 2x. And then I added a voiceover, and I think it was okay quality-wise. I just wish the app went up to a faster speed up rate. I'm not sure why it doesn't. My goal here was to have the same color not touching, and I messed that up in a couple areas. And I believe this here is where I have my mess up. Yeah, this is it. There's a hair, and what I should have just stupid cat hairs, I swear to God, they're everywhere I am and in everything I do, and it's annoying. I shouldn't have touched it with tweezers. I should have taken the brush, because I paused for a little bit because I got frustrated. That's what happens when you mess with watercolor paper. It comes up again on the other side of the paper. There's a hair stuck in the tape, which is what I didn't realize. I thought it was on the paper and I could get it out. So on the other one, what I do is just brush the hair over onto the tape with the wet paint so that it's off of the painting, but it'll peel up with the tape later. And that's what I should have done with that one up there, but I didn't do that. And I didn't leave it alone, and now it's a dark spot. Honestly, I'm probably going to end up throwing this piece in the garbage because of that. I might have kept it otherwise. Honestly, I think the colors ended up a little clownish for me. It really does look like a circus. But I did want to use this palette. It's just full of very bright colors. I think I'm more kind of like an autumn palette person. That is the hair, the other hair that I found in the other green, that I just brushed onto the tape instead of messing with it. I painted just kind of freehand from memory, which usually doesn't turn out very good, kind of a fall color bouquet, and I was using the complexion palette from Prima marketing. And if you use it to paint anything other than complexions, like in a bouquet or anything like that, it looks very fall colors, like a fall palette. So that was kind of fun. A lot of these sections I went over a couple times while the paper was still wet. It actually made it easy because the sections weren't too large. So once I covered the whole section once, the paper was now wet. So if I wanted to go over it a second time, it was relatively easy because most of the time the section nearby has dried already, so the water and the paint is going to follow where the paint is wet, where the paper is wet, sorry. So if you have, one layer already down and you want to paint it again, this is what I'm doing. I'm just going over the blue. As long as it looked even to me, then I was leaving it. And I've been taping down my paper. This is just the Michael's brand. I think it's Artist's Loft paper, 140-pound cold press. The sheets that are this big. That's usually what I use. Unless I'm really serious about something, I'm not going to use the expensive paper I bought. I bought some recently. I also got a pad of hot press, which I will save when I'm extra confident and I'm painting something I'm going to give to someone. But I've been taping them down to these cutting boards, and I have a larger one for bigger pieces of paper as well. But it makes it so much easier to be able to move it around. I'm not taping it down to that green pad on my desk. I'm taping it down to something I can set aside if I'm not done with it, or I can turn it any direction and still work on it. So I bought the 3 set of these cutting boards on Amazon. There's one smaller than this for smaller pages, and there's this size, and then there's one bigger than this. And there are many watercolor artists that will do these really cool, I purchased one from Danica, I think it's Danica Sills, without having anything to look her up on because I'm using my phone right now. Danica Sills on YouTube. She sells prints. This is one where red is next to red unintentionally. That was my fault. She sells prints of what she does, but it was very interesting because I got to watch her paint it on YouTube, and then I could buy a print of it. And it was a very like witchy Halloween woman, and I bought it, and I still haven't hung it up. I need to get a frame, but I'm going to hang it up in my craft area. I would love to be able to do anything like her, but it takes a lot of learning. I'm also just not artistic in general. I'm fine saying like I'm an artist, because all of us are artists. If you make art, you're an artist, but I'm not that good at like drawing a human to make it look like a person, is what I mean. And hers are just beautiful, and the process that she goes through, and she has her own frustrations with her process, even though I think the end result is beautiful, you know, and she talks about that through painting it and having to deal with giant areas of paint. I think every watercolor artist probably goes through that. But being able to see her paint it and the crazy techniques that they use to get an end result, and to be able to watch that process is just really cool. And I'm glad that they share things like that on YouTube. I would love to be able to draw and outline and paint like that someday. Maybe. We'll see. Even though I don't plan on keeping this, and I messed up the green section because it looks terrible, do not poke at wet watercolor paper, because that is what it will look like. I'm still going to show you what I was going to do. I'm still going to do what I was going to do at the end. So I'm going to fill that in. I was going to tell you to guess what color I was going to use for the last white space, but it's red. Spoilers. So I'm going to dry all of the spots that are wet, and then I'm going to run the gun along the edges of the tape to kind of warm it up, to soften it so that pulling it off is not so rippy to my paper. Although it has been peeling up, you can kind of see any of the paper that comes with the tape. It's annoying. But it wasn't doing this to me in the beginning, so I'm just kind of annoyed that it's all of a sudden doing it now. So I'm trying to peel, but I don't think if I'd peeled any slower, it would have been any better. So what I'm going to do is take that number 8 micron. I end up keeping the cutting board because it's a good surface. And I'm going to outline the rectangle with the same pen thickness. And I actually like it better with the outline, so I'm glad I did it. Although I'm not really happy with it as a whole. I think if I hadn't messed up the paper in that green section, I'd be fine with it, or I'd keep it, but it just looks atrocious. I'm not sure what else I can do to it. Maybe I'll try and salvage that section or add more doodles or something. Anyway, that is it. So, thank you for watching, and I hope this inspired you to watercolor or doodle and do whatever you want. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.